Hey everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thanks so much for joining me today for Flosstube number 86, I believe. I have some fun things going on today. I have some giveaways. I have the results of my poll, my Sleuths poll that you will see. I have a little bit of haul. I'm just looking around. I have some happy mail. I have some progress on my whips. So, oh, and I have a fully finished object for like a previously fully finished object that I want to show you that's related to one of my whips that many of you have probably never seen. And it's one of the things I'm most proud of. So I'm going to show that to you as well. I also have new hair. I dyed it and I cut my bangs yesterday. So that's exciting. Although, you know, when I'm looking at like my little screen, I'm like, oh man, my hair looks really cute. I like it. And then when I go to edit, I'm like, what was my like hair doing? Like I have a weird like a weird thing sticking out. What are you gonna do? Ooh, and I have some history, which is super exciting. But before we get to any of that, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me on my crafty and artistic adventures. And welcome back to everyone who's been hanging out with me for however long you've been with me. It has been fantastic to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you can find me in two places. I'll put them right here. Like my main account, my main Instagram account is Dr_Christy, and that's where I post pictures of my life, my dog, my stitching, my work, my outfits of the day, you know, stuff like that. And then I have a second one called The Spoolery, which is an homage to my love of vintage wooden spools, which is less, I post there way less often, although I'm having ideas, so I may be posting there a little bit more. We'll see. We'll see. No promises. This is a channel about embroidery and cross stitch and other textile crafts and weaving. I'm going to show you some weaving and history and the history of all of those things. So if any of that is interesting to you and you're not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Thank you all so much for your kind words about, well, your kind comments about my 2-year Flosstube anniversary. So many of you participated in my trivia game, which was really fun. And yeah, and so I think I want to start with giveaways and then we can kind of move on to other things. If you are chosen as a winner of one of these prizes, I'm going to send you one of my chart designs and I'm going to do that in a PDF through email as opposed to through Etsy. So what I need you to do is shoot me either a private message on Instagram, which I just showed you, or an email through christyscornercraft@gmail.com. That's written down below. And let me know your email address and what pattern you'd like me to send you, and I will get those out to you. So I have my iPad and my YouTube comment picker already, you know, up as soon as I open up my iPad. YouTube comment picker. Da, 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 da. So the first question of my Flosstube anniversary extravaganza was, what state do I live in? And oh, I think everyone got it right who answered it, and it's Mississippi. So I put that in here. Start. And the winner is Deb. Deb, you are the winner. And you said, love the t-shirt, Girl Scout colors from the 70s. So I just had a flashback. And the drink koozie. Thank you so much. I also appreciate everyone loving the ridiculousness of my friendships. I appreciate that. Thank you for investing the time to make these videos and let us get to know you. Well, thank you. I appreciate you investing the time to watch me and get to know me. I appreciate that very much. There were 19 entrants for Mississippi. My second question was, what's my historical specialty? And my historical specialty is medieval Europe. And so I will put in medieval, 19 comments. Sarah King, our Stitching Kingdom. I feel like you just won something from me. So Sarah, shoot me an email. The next question is, what kind of pet do I have? And I have a dog. So I put dog in and I have 20 comments. And the winner is Rachel Joy 7. So Rachel, if you want to shoot me an email and you just answered all the questions, which is perfectly fine. If you want to shoot me an email or hit me up on Instagram, and I will get a pattern out to you. That was the third. The fourth question was, what was the fourth question? I just had it. Oh, when did I start my HAED? And I started it on my birthday. So birthday is the secret word. And I had 18 comments on this one. I'm not doing very well with this comment picker thing. The winner is Tony the Stubborn Stitcher is the winner. This was, oh, you just answered the question. So Tony the Stubborn Stitcher, if you would shoot me a message and I will get a pattern out to you that you would like. And then the final question, and the first four, like, everyone got right. The last question, however, people didn't get right. Now, I didn't like plan how many times I was going to say extravaganza in that episode. I just sort of said it whenever I thought about it and then went through and counted it later. So I said extravaganza 12 times. And I know some people got it exactly right. I was wondering if I would have to like do closest, but I didn't. 6 people got it exactly right. So let's see who wins. And the winner is Teresa Forster. So Teresa, congratulations. Your comment is 12 times, which is true. Now, 6 people got it exactly right. Does that mean that you're just really good at guessing? Or did you go back and like just zip through the video and see how many times? I would love to know. But Teresa, if you want to give me, shoot me a message on Instagram and or an email and let me know your email address and what pattern you would want. So congratulations to my winners. I don't have a giveaway this week, but I think I'm going to try and do giveaways more often. Just because, I don't know, they're fun and I have things to give away. All right, let's get into the stitching. So I finished, as you know, although I can't find her now. Oh, I ironed Jessica Fletcher. So she's over there with my iron. But I finished Jessica Fletcher last week. And I put a poll up to see whether folks would want my next sleuth to be Miss Marple, the Joan Hickson version, or Columbo. And it was neck and neck. And I did it on Instagram and in my YouTube community tab. Like I said, neck and neck. Miss Marple won YouTube. Columbo won Instagram. But he like surged at the end. He had sort of like a tail end voting spree. And because more people voted on Instagram than voted on YouTube, Columbo won. And here he is. So there's Columbo. I'm going to start him this week. He's ready to go. I think he turned out really well. I'm not great with hands. It's really hard. Hands are hard. So I'm just leaving them as they are and it'll be fine. But I did discover that he has the same hair as Jessica Fletcher. It's very sort of wild and curly. So this is a sort of combination of 2 different Columbo pictures. So that's my Columbo sketched out. And he looks rumpled, which as he should. So that is going to be my new start this week. I'm not counting it as a new start, even though I counted Jessica Fletcher's sketching as a new start. I'm not counting this as a new start because it got complicated because then I couldn't consider it a new start when I started stitching her. And that was a shame. I do have 2 tiny weavings that I've been playing around with. I don't love them yet, but I think I will. I decided to try making little necklaces, little woven necklaces. And this one has a continuous loop. And you know, for the string, so you just put it over your head and it's super cute. But I like the beads, but they were a bitch to do, let me tell you, because I had to like warp the whole thing through the beads. I'm not doing that again. So I had, and they're like uneven. So I have an idea of how to finish this with the loop, because I did this one where I haven't finished it yet. This is a sort of a pink one, which I think is really pretty. Where the loops are still free, so now I have to like cut them and put them onto a hook and they're shorter, and so you can't just put it over your head. I don't know. So I like this way better. I just have to perfect it. But these are my two new, oh, these are my two fully finished objects, which I can't show you, which I'm struggling. So my two fully finished objects are these two woven necklaces. Now let's talk stitching. I have been working on my HAED a little bit. It's not very exciting. This is my Heaven and Earth Design Lady and the Unicorn. This is what it's going to look like. And this is where I am. I have been working, I did this line here, and then I've been doing a lot of kind of filling in right here of the background. And then I filled in, I think, a bit up here maybe in sort of the tree. So that's what I've been working on. It's not super exciting. I'm at 11.76%, almost 27,000 stitches. So I am way behind where I wanted to be. I was catching up in June, and then I went away in July and my stitching tanked while I was visiting family. So I do think that it's coming along, and that's exciting. And I think I've mentioned this before, but my first square is like a half square. It's a 5x10 square. That's completely filled in. And that's like basically the only thing that's completely filled in, other than the puppy. The puppy's completely filled in. Yeah, the puppy's completely filled in. But, you know, I have so many ninja stitches like everywhere because I just want to slam in color at this point. I just want to get color in and slam in color. So I need to come up with like another goal. I think, you know, my friend Marcia wanted me to get down to the bunnies that were in here. So maybe I'll head towards those bunnies. There are some bunnies sitting on the carpet. I don't know. This is stitched on a 20 count ivory Aida 2/1 full cross. I like a thick coverage, doing it in obviously the called for DMC. I grid with a friction pen every 5 squares, which helps with my counting. I still messed up, but I don't even worry about it. Honestly, I don't worry about it. I keep my thread for this on floss drops, and these are floss drops that I got for the floss drop swap. And I found some more that I hadn't punched yet from people, so I do have more. But I did put a call out for floss drops, and I got some happy mail. So Sherry Seacrease, who you may remember from last week because she won my 2-year Flosstube anniversary, while I was picking her name for my Flosstube anniversary extravaganza prize, there was an amazing package from her in the mail. So first of all, she made me this beautiful tag, which I think I'm going to put up either in my office at work on the wall, or I will put it up over here on this wall, because I do have things from people over here. So I'm not sure, but this is going to be decoration. It's beautiful. Paper crafters are so talented. I am not a paper crafter, but I do watch quite a few paper crafters on YouTube, just because what they make is amazing. Like Treasure Books. I don't know if any of you are into junk journals. If you don't watch Treasure Books, you should. She is so inspiring. And she made me this card, which is empty, so I can send it to someone and pretend like I am talented and make amazing cards. But the call, of course, was for floss drops. So she made this box for me that has a little closure. I don't want anything to fall out, but look at these. Look at this. And it says Christie's Floss Drops. And she gave me hooks because these floss drops have eyelets, which are smaller than normal floss drops. Okay, so each ring has a charm on it that goes with, I think, goes with the floss drops. Look at these. Each one is slightly different. And these ones have tiny ants on the back. And then there is a frog. So because the holes on these have eyelets and are so much smaller, she gave me these. So that's the first set. I couldn't believe it, I'm telling you. Like, I opened this and I literally gasped. Gasped. It's so beautiful. The second set has a moon card and different sort of, I'm feeling tarot-y card, witchy, getting witchy vibes from this. Isn't that amazing? And these ones have hearts on the back. And it has a little Ouija board. Oh, what are those called? You know what I'm talking about. The thing that you move on a Ouija board. And then we have a lock with a spider. And this looks very Halloween-y and bugs. Which is super fun. Look at those. And these have spiders on the back. And then this one has, oh, that's beautiful. This one has a little, looks like a bee charm on it. And a little butterfly. And flowers, gold flowers, unicorns. Aren't they amazing? So I essentially are gonna have the classiest HAED floss keeping system on earth, basically. So thank you, Sherry, so much. This was such a lovely, lovely thing to get. Yeah, super amazingly beautiful. So talented, so talented. I'm a little in awe of people who are talented like this and can put things together and have the patience, and then it has a little belly band to keep it all together. Beautiful. And this box, look at this box, and it's made out of looks like there's book paper, and I don't know. This is I'm speechless, and those of you who know me know that I talk constantly, so that's amazing. Anyway, so thank you so much, Sherry. I will absolutely put these to good use in my HAED. I have so many more colors to put on floss drops, so they will be used. I may not use all of them for my HAED. I may use some of them for other things too, thematically and all. So thank you so much, Sherry. I appreciate it so much. So much. This is so thoughtful, and honestly more than I could have ever expected. Basically, astonishing. So those are going to be put to use for my HAED. That's my HAED, and then my associated Happy Mail. So thank you again. I'm going to show you my temperature drink shelf, although I don't think I worked on it this week. My mom wasn't feeling well. She had COVID, and I think some of the fatigue hit her this weekend, and so she canceled last week. But I want to show it to you anyway, just, to show it. It's going to look like this. And here is where I am. I'm super happy about that. I'm pretty sure I haven't worked on this since last time you saw it. So I'll just put it away. But I wasn't positive until I took it out, which is why I brought it to show you. The final stitching that I worked on is my wedding sampler, and it is The River by Modern Folk Embroidery. And usually I have it physically with me, but I left it in the other room, and so I don't have it. This is what it's going to look like. And here is where I am. So last week, I think I only had up to here on that top row. And so since then I've put in some numbers and some more letters. This is being stitched on, I believe, a 16 count Aida that I dyed, printed, developed using Cyanotype printing method, and some lace that I got as a wedding present. Okay. And this is being stitched in DeVere Yarns Filament Silk Old Gold, weight 72. It's a 12 strand, and I'm doing it 3 strands over 1 square. So this DeVere Yarns Old Gold Filament Silk is the same color that I used in my wedding bouquet. And I think some of you may not have seen my wedding bouquet. So I decided that I was going to do some 3D embroidery and make my wedding bouquet out of silk and pom-poms, essentially. And so this was my wedding bouquet. And so this inner flower here, the big central flower, this is silk threads on organza, and it has a wire around it to keep its shape so it's bendable. And then I have little innards, and then I have pom-poms. I basically made pom-pom flowers for the outside. But this is probably one of the favorite things I've ever made in my entire life. This color here, this gold color, is the same color as the wedding sampler. This is a weight, it's a 6 weight, which is their thinnest thread, but it's the same color. And my colors were gold and teal. The funny thing, that I love gold and teal. Gold and teal is a fantastic color for me anyway, because I love gold and teal. But the reason why my wedding is gold and teal is because I was trying to get married on the cheap. I was paying for it. My goal was $5,000. I made it. I got engaged in 2019, like Christmas of 2019. Rich and I got engaged. So in the summer of 2020, when all those weddings got canceled, you know, because of COVID, I basically went to Michael's and just bought all the clearance wedding stuff. And the invitations that I got were gold and teal birds. And I love gold and teal and birds. And so I'm like, okay, those are my colors. And so I made my flowers. And like I said, these are different petals. These are individually stitched petals that I did on organza. Anyway, I just wanted to show my bouquet because, again, I'm very proud of it. But it also relates to my wedding sampler, which will be matching this. So there you go. I do believe that is all my stitching. So I'm going to show you my little bit of haul from Fat Quarter Shop that I think you might be interested in. And then I'm going to talk a little bit of history because I'll talk about that later on. So let's talk about my haul. I bought some Aida. I bought some Aida from Fat Quarter Shop. I bought 3 of their petit point, small dots. I got a blue, a beige, and a gray. And this gray is going to be used for a Christmas secret swap. So I will be stitching on this starting this project this week, but I won't show you because it's a secret. So I will take a picture of it when I'm done and after it's sent off and I know that it's opened, I'll show you my progress on that. But it's going to be on this for a winter Christmassy swap. The reason is because I do actually know the person who I'm sending it to, and I know she watches my channel. So I want it to be a surprise, but it's going to be on that fabric. So that's fun. I also bought some more Bob Ross fabric. I love Bob Ross so much. So this is a panel of his images. In fact, I think I got 2 panels of his pictures. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but it was on clearance, I think. And I'm like, Bob Ross on clearance? Yes, please. And then finally, I had to get free shipping. I think I got free shipping. I think that's why I did this. But I ordered a pattern, a sewing pattern of a stitchy bag, essentially. So it has space for flosses and scissors and hoops. I haven't had the chance to do it yet, but this is from Cotton Way, and I thought it was cute. So that's a sewing pattern. So let's talk plans. I would like to work some more on my woven necklaces and get those kind of perfected. I plan on working on all of my current whips. I have not heard from my mom, but I'm assuming that she wants to get together tonight. So I'll work on my drinks shelf, and then I always kind of try and throw in a couple hundred stitches into my HAED every day if I can, and make some progress on my wedding sampler. I also want to start on Columbo and start my secret stitch. I copied, it's from a magazine. I copied the pattern for a working copy. And so that's ready to go. And I'm just stitching from stash. So it should be fine. I have stash, so I will stitch from stash. And I think that will be very good. But those are my plans. This is Sunday morning, and I had planned on filming this yesterday, but I found a new TV series on BritBox, that new to me anyway, that is so delightful. I was super binging it. It is the Sister Boniface mysteries, and it's connected to the Father Brown mysteries. It's like 20 years later or something. It's in the 60s, I think. And Father Brown made an appearance, and it was so good to see him. It's so exciting. And this is a British nun is basically is the scientific advisor for the police in this small village. It's all delightful. It's all delightful. The Sister Boniface mysteries. Highly recommend. There's only one season, and I haven't finished it yet, but I binged it like all day. And there were three episodes I watched without stitching. Like, I literally just watched the show, which I never do. And those of you who are stitchers or knitters know that, like, it's hard to just watch a show and not do something. I watched without stitching. Now, afterwards, I took out my HAED and I did put some stitches in my HAED, but it was fun. Let's talk about my history. I am a medieval historian, as you know, but this semester I'm teaching a Renaissance, Reformation, and Revolutions class. So it goes from the Italian Renaissance through the Protestant Reformation. So it's basically an early modern history course in Europe. And it ends with the French Revolution and the Haitian Revolution. So that's how I'm ending it. This is not my time period, and I just got a new textbook for my students. So each week they read a chapter or two from the textbook, but I also want to make sure they get primary sources that they can analyze and write about and think about, that kind of, I think of the textbook as like the bones of the class that provides the narrative, and then the primary sources are like the meat and the flesh that goes on it that makes it interesting, right? So we're in the Renaissance. Next week, sorry, I'm a week ahead. Next week, we'll be looking at the Italian Renaissance. And so I had to kind of pick out some primary sources that I think are interesting and fit with what I want to talk about. I have a Renaissance reader that is about the Medici and Savonarola, which in the mid to late 15th century, the mid to late 1400s. And in that, there was a reference, a very tiny reference, to a diary that was written by an apothecary. Now, this apothecary wrote this diary of all the things that he thought it was interesting and important to record in Florence, Italy, during this period from 1450 until his death in like 1518. So we have like 65 years of a diary by like a middle-class guy. Okay. Now he has money, and I'll talk, and which you'll see when I talk about like what I want to read to you. He has money, but he's not a super powerful guy. He's just like a regular merchant in the middle of Florence. And we have this record of the goings on in Florence from this like middle perspective, which as a medievalist is very interesting. Now, modern historians have all sorts of letters and diaries and things like that. But as a medieval historian, I just don't have those things. And so when I find them for this early, it's very exciting. So I will post a link. You can get a copy of this, 1927 translation of this in like online for free. So if you're interested in looking at this, I haven't had a chance to go through it all, but it's very interesting what I've seen so far. I'll put a link down below. But what I want to talk about, I have it up here on my iPad. What I want to talk about is his wedding. Well, actually, no. His wife's wedding outfit, her wedding clothes. In the Italian Renaissance, in early modern Italy, in these cities, weddings were arranged, especially for this class of people. They were like middle-class people, middle-class and up people. Their weddings were arranged, and it was an exchange of property. The wife wasn't necessarily property, but she came with property. And one of the things that she came with is clothing, because clothing is really expensive. Those of you who spin and knit and sew, especially by hand, understand like how much work goes into clothing. And so clothing and other textiles were expensive and prized and were passed down. And so having this like trousseau of clothes that come with a bride was a sign of wealth, right? It was very important. So he says in 1466, 24th of May, a Saturday, and the eve of the Spirito Sancto, I was wedded to a daughter of Domenico, son of Domenico Pagni, whose name was Salvestra. So his wife's name was Salvestra. She had a dowry of 400 florins in the state funds, praise God. So the state funds are kind of like the city's stock market. So you would invest money into the city and you would get back an annuity with interest on a regular basis. Like that's kind of, and it was an investment in the city. 5th July. So this is 2 months, a month and a half later. A Sunday evening, I gave her the ring, the contract being made before Ser Giovanni, son of Francesco de Neri. Oh, and then there's a note that it should be the 6th of July, which was a Sunday evening. So I study medieval marriage. That's my focus. And one of the interesting things about medieval marriage, and although the Italian Renaissance wants to pretend it's not medieval, it's still very medieval. So marriage was like a process. Like in the modern world, you get married and you're done and you're married. In the medieval world, you had contracts and you had ceremonies and you had gift giving, and they could all happen at different periods. And then you'd be married at the end of that. So the ring is exchanged on July 6th, 1466. And on the 27th of July, a Sunday evening, I took my wife to Casa Domenico. 3 weeks after he gives her the ring, he then takes her home. And this could be for various reasons. One of the requirements of marriage in the Middle Ages was that you announce the marriage 3 times on 3 consecutive Sundays in the church. And the reason for this was to find any impediments to the marriage. There are reasons why marriages can't be contracted. So if you're, bigamy, if you're already married, if you're related too closely, if there's impotence, like stuff like that, it means you can't get married. And so you would announce the records weren't great kept. Italy has much better records because they have lots of notaries, but still you have to announce it so that if someone has an objection, they can announce the objection in public before the wedding is finalized. And that's why in marriages, although not really anymore, but that's why in marriages until fairly recently, there would be a, like, does anyone object? That objection isn't just like, unlike in the movies, the objection isn't about whether someone else loves the person and that kind of a thing. The objection would be these impediments to marriage. So that's not why I want to talk to you about this though. So on the 27th of July, a Sunday evening, I took my wife to Casa Domenico. She had as bridal outfit the following, and then he lists the bride, what she has. And she has a pale blue sack garment with narrow sleeves embroidered with pearls, a purple gown with sleeves of brocatello, which is a thin brocade, a white undergown, because of course this is the Middle Ages where they're wearing like lots of layers. You have an undergowns and overgowns and coats and slashes and all these different things. 24 kerchiefs of hand-woven linen, 6 linen towels, 24 benducci de lato, which are strips of stuff fastened to the shoulder of your outfit to be used as a handkerchief. Okay, so I love me some handkerchiefs, and we often don't think about the uses of clothing. Like, we think about clothing in the abstract, right? We think about clothing as a way to cover the body or to enhance different features. When we go to museums and see clothing in museums, we're usually seeing the ceremonial clothing, right? We're not usually seeing the everyday clothing, because people wore their everyday clothing to death, and then they passed it down and altered it, and the next person wore it to death, and then they gave it to their servants, who then altered it and wore it to death, and then they cut it up into rags and used those rags to death, and then they sold the rags to the paper maker, and they were made in paper. If they were like flax or linen or whatever, or cotton. Clothes that people wore don't last, because, as I mentioned earlier, fabric is expensive. You would get one, like a normal person would have 1 or 2 sets of clothing a year, as opposed to in the modern world where we wear different clothes every day. Most people did not wear different clothes every day. They'd have like their normal everyday clothes, and then they'd have their Sunday festival, whatever clothes. And that was essentially it, right? They would have like different layers that they could remove or add on depending on the weather, but they're not changing their clothes a lot in like normal people. So this vision of strips of cloth fastened to shoulders to like wipe your nose is fantastic. And I'd never heard of such a thing. Now, I'm not a fashion historian. I don't do fashion history at all, but I do find it fascinating. She also had 8 shifts woven in lozenge pattern, new. So that's interesting that he mentions that they're new, which means the other ones she's already had. 12 coifs, which go on the hair. A girdle of white silk webbing with silver threads. 3 caps of various kinds. So, you have to cover your hair. A green reticule with silver ornaments, which is like a bag. And a pin cushion with pearls. So this is like the trousseau that she brought with her. They were estimated by 2 dealers at the value of 38 florins di suggello. And then he goes and lists all of the different parts of this trousseau and what they're worth. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but he talks about the fine cotton material for the robe, the twisted gold fringe for the robe, linen material for the gown, how much it costs to make the gown by a guy named Lorenzo who's a tailor, gold ribbons and lining and linen, jewels, silk cords. So these were the estimates of this. And then he says, and I will record my own expenses for the marriage gift. So he also gives a gift to her when she comes into his household. And he talks about silk webbing for a girdle with gold and silver ornaments, pearls for snoods, a jeweled brooch, a couple of little knives, a pearl band for her forehead, a pearl necklace. Lots of pearls are happening here. A clasp for the collar of the robe, crimson silk material for the gown, diamonds, sapphires, ruby, and then to Lorenzo the tailor to make all these things, a pendant. I just find this so interesting. And like I said, I will leave a link below to this document. It is an astonishing document, and I was so excited when I found it. So I thought that you all might be interested in just knowing, just thinking about clothing and like what people wore, like what the fancy clothes were for an upper middle class merchant in late medieval Florence and during the Italian Renaissance. And that's during the time of like the Medici. That's kind of their first rise. Florence is a happening place at that point. He is clearly a prosperous apothecary in the middle of Florence. I think that's all for me. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today and hanging out with me. My prize winners, please don't forget to contact me either on Instagram or through email. And Sherry, thank you again so much for my Happy Mail. It is astonishing. I think I've said that's it for me like 5 times, and then I think of something else to say. So this is really it for me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.